Guys, we're sitting here with LCU head football coach Ben McLaughlin, and Ben, welcome aboard.
No, good to be here. I mean, you've the 446 is changing here, so look at all the new look here. It's good stuff.
Look, it's we're just excited to be able to bring people. I have to get interviews going on because people get tired of hearing what I have to say. So I've got to go out and find some wisdom out there.
Well, it's a cool way to do it. So looking forward to seeing where you take all this.
Well, I appreciate that. One thing that we're looking forward to is watching you and seeing where you and those LCU Wildcats go this year. It's got to be a lot of excitement on campus.
Yeah, it's been a really weird transition, because I feel like I've seen every nook and cranny of that place from 5 years as a student athlete there, 2 years as a GA, coming back 4 years as a coordinator, leaving for 4 years, and so as a lot of things have changed, but you know what, a lot of it's the same too. So it's been a really cool 2 months here, but we're looking forward to it myself. I promise you that.
Well, that's a lot of years in coaching. I'm counting them up. I was like, you don't even seem that old, and you got a lot of years spread out in there.
Hey, ever since 2006, I guess I've spent 3 years in Oklahoma, and then I spent 4 years in high school. So since 2006, there's only been 7 years of that I have not been at LC, so or LCU now. So it's no, it's yeah, it's I spent a lot more of my adult life there than I've done anywhere else. So that place kind of made me through and through.
Well, you spent just before we get into this team this season. Let's just refresh everybody in case they were wondering and had missed it a little bit. Your journey took you from LC at that point over to Ash, over to Buckeye, and now back here. What's that transition been like?
Yeah, no, look, it's been good. I mean, when I was at LC there full time and for 4 years, I guess that had been my seventh year in college full time when you add the years that I spent the junior college in Oklahoma. And so moving into high school, I do feel like I was able to, because I know, Thomas there at Ash, I mean, he's got he does a great job with this program, and I was able to bring some outgoing recruiting knowledge there. And so I know we kind of got I was able to kind of get his, prospect list up to date and kind of do some things, from things that you like to see when you walk into high schools from the college side, when they have all this stuff in a row. I was able to kind of help and get Ash to that level. And now that I'm flipping back to the college side, I kind of saw from the high school side, well, it was nice to, this is what kind of helped from our side. So I feel like I've seen it from both sides. I've got advantage from both sides. I've seen guys like Thomas and some of the best guys that, one of the best coaches, in my opinion, in the whole state of Louisiana, if not the southeast part of this whole country, and see how he did it from the high school side, and then was able to carry some of that to Buckeye, where for 2 years I was able to kind of do it on my own and kind of branch out there and then bring all of that combined knowledge from Coach Dunn and Coach Charles and
Wow.
and Thomas and bring it all back to one. So if I'm just kind of half the coaches that some of those guys are, we'll be pretty successful.
So we know I'm quite confident that you will be. This is the first time that you've combined all of that. So in your
Mhm.
prior stint there at LC, recruiting was one of those things. Weren't calling the signals on there. When you got into the high school level, you were calling signals but weren't recruiting. What's the difference been made where you sit down and say, you know what, the buck stops here?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, if you try to do all of that on your own, you're going to burn out and flame out fast. So you've got to really rely on your staff. You've got to trust those guys, whether it's sometimes on the football field, or, sometimes you got to trust them to go out and take those receivers or take those quarterbacks and do a drill with them, and or now on the road. So you've got to really rely on that staff and everything. The most important thing you can do as a head coach is hiring the staff around you that you need. And so I was able to inherit a couple of some really good coaches and able to add a couple here coming with me. And so once you combine all that really, that's what makes it go. And so, but yeah, no, it's interesting. It's definitely that the office at the end of the hall is a little bit different than that third one on the left that I used to commandeer. So a lot more comes with it, but I'm ready for the challenge.
Well, we're looking forward to it. We'll feature all of the LCU football games on 446 Sports, and we're delighted to continue that partnership. So, losing a couple of All-Americans last year off a
Mhm.
great successful season that Coach Maddox put together before he goes to the Division One level of it. What do you see coming back, and how do you replace such key parts as that?
Yeah, well, I mean, number one, you can't replace guys like that. I mean, one thing that, when you look at our roster and you just look at the numbers, we do have a lot of returning starters coming back, but the problem is of the 22 returning starters that we possibly could have, we got 14, I think, 13, 14 coming back on both sides, but those 6 to 8 that we lost were some big ones. I mean, you're
They were
talking about
special.
Sal. I was fortunate to recruit him and coach him as a freshman my last year at LC in 2019. I mean, he was a grown man out there, literally out there in his 6th year, I guess, with that super senior, that COVID year, and just seeing him progress from the player he was as a freshman to who he became. Replacing a guy like him is, like I said, you can't. You're just hoping that someone can come in and that they can kind of, that they'll be able to do what they can do, but they can't. I told River, I was like, you can't try to go out there and be Sal. You've got to be you, and we've got to build this thing around him and what he does well, and not try to make him into somebody he's not. And I think he's going to have a lot of success for us. And Briscoe transferred from Nichols, who came in and had so much success,
Right.
in the last 2 seasons under 2 different offensive coordinators with 2 totally different systems. But, there was one consistent in there, and it was Sal and him both getting a whole lot of yards and winning football games. And then, on the defensive side, I mean, 2 of our GAs on defense were 2 all-conference players for us.
That's right.
You got Bubba, Andre Reed at linebacker, who's going to be coaching our linebackers, and you got Big Willie Robertson there. He was the kind of the big guy in the middle that nobody could move, and he's helping us GA a little bit on the D line spot. And then we did lose, we lost a corner, Benny Clark, to graduation, and then we lost another corner who went on to Grambling and is trying to walk on there and do his thing at Grambling. So we've got a lot of guys coming back, but when you talk about D line, cover corners, quarterbacks, running backs, those are about as important as you can get. So replacing those guys are going to be hard. But I will say this: those guys that were behind them, they're ready to prove people right or wrong, however you want to look at it. But they're ready to get out there too and waiting on their turn.
Well, and Coach, they were in some of those big situations too, because they're not just walking on campus here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you brought up a big point that I guess that Super Six, that COVID year group is gone now.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year was the last year that's affected by that, and things get back to some sense of normalcy. I don't think they'll ever be normal with the transfer portal and all of that, but you don't have you're able to go get high school kids a little bit easier, and they're not having to get lost up in a 5th or 6th year player.
Yeah, well, and crazy enough, I was at Ash this morning and I was talking with Thomas as we were, looking at some of his kids, and we were talking about the portal. And the portal is really a hot topic right now because but here's the deal: at some point, all of us programs, you've got to put high school kids. I mean, you're going to run out of.
Right.
At some point, you got to start taking. So I think it's all going to balance out. It really will. The portal is going to calm down here in the next year or two, and the high schoolers are going to start coming back in, and it's all going to balance itself out. I really believe so. But yeah, no, I do know it does. I mean, if you were a freshman or a sophomore, you were competing against 2 senior classes.
Right.
And a junior class above you. Yeah, it really diminished your odds there. And it was awesome for these teams that were able to keep those big senior classes together because you had some 22, 20. I mean, we had half the team out there last year were finishing their masters out there playing, not just their undergrad. And so that was a huge key to them in the success that Coach Maddox built, and it was awesome that they kept that together. But now we got to go back, and I don't want to say the word rebuild, but there's a lot of pieces coming up in these next couple of years because even we got 20 plus seniors right now. So
Right.
You're talking about in 2 year span, we're going to lose 40 plus kids that were senior starters on this team. And so it's going to be a really good opportunity for these young guys that come in that did wait their turn, like River, and hopefully these next couple of recruiting classes that we have can come in and fill the bill.
But the folks that remember your stint there, recruiting was one of your strengths. There's no doubt about that. And again, we see the crew that is around you, and you guys are hitting the ground now doing that as well. So that's got to be the fun part of it too, because you're going out there and building these future junior and senior classes.
Yeah, recruiting is, in one sense, you're a salesman. We've got to sell ourselves. We've got to sell our school, our football program. But I was telling some parents and I was talking to them. I mean, I'm a direct byproduct of what this school and what this program can do. If there's not very many people out there that believe in the product that Louisiana College, now Louisiana Christian, can take a 18-year-old boy and turn him around and put him in as a member of society that's going to be productive. And so I'm not out there just selling. I'm not selling our offense and selling our football program and wins. And when I'm talking to these kids and I'm talking to these parents, I'm literally coming from the heart, because I am, like I said, top to bottom, I have been made by that school. And so it's easy to recruit when you believe in the product. And we do, and we know there's some challenges to small college football. There's money challenges. There's challenges everywhere that everybody has. But the end product is worth it. Taking these kids, giving some of these kids an opportunity that when everybody else passed them up, but they were going to be late bloomers, and now you see them come to fruition and become the people and the grown men that they are, and also obviously what they do on the football field. I believe in it. Our staff believes in it. So I told our staff last week, man, enjoy these next 3 weeks. This is fun. And these next 3 weeks may be more important for the program than the last 3 weeks from spring football. It's just the way it goes in college football. So I'm going to enjoy getting on the road and trying to meet some of our future Wildcats.
Well, last thing that we'll ask you, and we'll get you out of here, because we're not going to use our whole season's worth of conversation tonight. We'll join you each week and visit with you about LCU football. But give me a little bit of an overview of that spring game and how you feel coming out of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, so we only went through 10 practices. And so, Coach Andrus on the defensive side, that there's a lot of continuity on defense. And right. I thought he did a great job. And so for them, it was just kind of just reviewing it. But obviously offensively, we're making a few changes in some of the things that we do. So it's more about laying a foundation. So that spring game was good. There's two different ways, I watch on ESPN all these different spring balls, and most people, they like to keep their ones together and their twos together, and they have some kind of offense versus defense. Our kids really wanted to split up kind of, hey, schoolyard pick 'em, and let's make 2 even teams and go at it. And that's a lot of fun. Now, you don't get that continuity. You don't get those starters beside starters. So, I told them, I was like, that's what they wanted. And they had a really good spring. And I thought we had 10 really good practices. So I said, why not? So we did split them up. So, when you do that, you kind of mess a little bit with some of the rhythm that you may have on both sides of the ball. So there were some big plays on offense that probably happened by some breakdowns of some defensive scheme and people not working, that haven't been working together. And there were some big plays the defense made for the same reason, vice versa. So at the end of the day, I think there was, 8 to 10 big explosive plays on each side of the ball that both teams made. So, as a head coach, when you can walk off there and you feel like, what, everybody kind of got a little bit of both, that's when okay, we got some good work done. So it was a lot of fun, and now they're working on finals, and send them home for about a month and a half, and they'll be back in July, and we'll be ready to work again.
Have you eased them into that NASCAR offense?
No.
Are you going pretty fast? Not yet?
You can't ease them into that. You got to just throw them in the deep end and see who sinks and who swims. So they did a really good job with it.
We're looking forward to it. Head coach Ben McLaughlin, thank you for joining us tonight and taking time with us. Looking forward to a great career here at Louisiana Christian University, and this is only the beginning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doug.